Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar. I'm Charlene O'Hanlon, moderator for today's event, and I welcome you. As always, we have a great webinar on tap. I'm really excited about this one, but before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items we need to go over. First of all, today's event is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of the event, you will have the opportunity to access it later on. Following today's webinar, we will be sending out an email that contains a link to access the webinar on demand. And we are taking questions from the audience. So if at any time during today's presentation you have a question for any of our speakers, please don't wait, don't hesitate, just use your GoToWebinar control panel and submit your questions, and we will try to get to as many as we can near the end of today's webinar. Also happening at the end of today's webinar, we'll be doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So please stick around. Hopefully you'll be one of our 4 lucky winners. All right, with that, let's go ahead and kick off today's webinar, which is how AWS and CircleCI optimize development pipelines, featuring Netguru. Our speakers today are Yanav Basam, who is Solutions Architect at AWS, Angel Rivera, who is Developer Advocate at CircleCI, and Adam Nowak, who is Development Process Practice Lead at Netguru. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you all for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Hello.
Thank you, Charlene.
Yanav. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yanav, I know you are the one who's going to be kicking off the conversation, so I'm going to put myself on mute, take myself off camera, and let you get right to it.
Thanks very much. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Charlene and DevOps.com for having us here with this presentation. And I'm going to get things started. So first of all, as Charlene said, my name is Yaniv Bosem. I'm a partner solutions architect at AWS. And with me today, we have a great story with Adam Nowak, a development process practice lead in Netguru, and Angela Rivera from CircleCI. Today's topic and today's webinar, what we're going to talk about is, first of all, I'm going to share a little bit about the Amazon story, just an abbreviated version. I'm going to leave you off with some resources, how you can do some self-paced learning and some reading yourself. Now, after that, I'm going to turn things over to Angel, who's going to talk about the CircleCI platform. And then we're going to go and hear from Adam about the Netguru story of using our platforms. Towards the end, Angel is going to show some more things, some nice hands-on things again. And then we're going to go and leave some time off for Q&A. But as Charlene mentioned, at any point of time, if you feel that you have a question that you want to raise, just feel free to post that in the question box. And we'll do our best to answer in a timely manner. So I'll get things started. Why am I a solutions architect in AWS going now to tell you a story about Amazon? Well, at AWS, we have 175 fully featured services from various different aspects of technology, compute, databases, serverless, containers, other and a lot of other areas such as machine learning that we've invested a lot in. And in each one of these services, we also have a lot of depth and a lot of features. And so the pace of how AWS develops these features within the services is quite remarkable, because if you see what we had in 2011, we released 80 significant features and services. Fast forward to 2018, when we released 1,957, you can see that we were able to gain speed. And as we gain that speed, we have a lot of things and experiences that we learned. Internally, we say, there's no compression algorithm for experience. So certain milestones we achieved at that scale, and that's why I want to share kind of the backstory to all of that here today. So just starting out, this was Amazon, something which is very similar to a 3-tier web application. You have your front end or your web server, and you have some kind of process in between that that does things and runs some features for your business. And in the backend, you have a database, just a simple database serving your data. A lot of bottlenecks, very hard to scale. And so at Amazon, we realized we have to start scaling. So moving forward to 1998, that's what we call scaling version 1. We thought that the first logical thing would be to try and scale that that database to something called a web database. That way, we are alleviating bottlenecks, and we're making sure that there's no single point of failure when there's that entry into the database. But very soon we saw that this doesn't last and it doesn't scale, so we have to make a really drastic and big change. And so going further, we came up with 4 principles of how you need to build a system which needs to handle such a scale. The first principle is make units as small as possible, which means that when you have a large unit within your realm of services, it's very hard to pinpoint failures, or with all the interdependencies and dependencies between the different features, it's extremely difficult to kind of map out what caused the failure in that specific aspect. So that was kind of the first thing, break everything into little services. But how do you do it? How do you break them? So that's when the second principle comes in. You need to decouple based on scaling factors and think more about the business aspect of things and less on the functions and the technical side of things. Because if you take a 3-tier web application, the first thing that you're thinking to yourself, let me scale that web tier and decouple it from my backend, or decouple the backend from my database. It's not the right way to think. The right way to think about this is that you have to find a common ground, which is every service has to have a bounded context, and that bounded context should be related to a feature that now this service can perform for your business. Things like authentication, a storefront, a shopping cart, other things that you're doing specifically for your business, such as orders. That's how you have to think about these services, more from the business side of things and less about the actual technical aspect of it. The third thing, and there's that famous quote from Jeff Bezos, communication is terrible. So each service should be able to operate independently. What that means, it means that we understand that in the past, in order for organization to get a feature out there, to get something out, it would mean that you actually have to have all these meetings between different services and have that kind of a give and take relationship. That I'm going to develop this by that time, and then okay, so we're going to consume that service after that. But that's kind of holding organizations back. We want to be able to operate independently, and for each service to have that autonomy to work and build features. Now, the fourth principle here about that we came up with is, so how, if these services, they run in an autonomous manner, how do they connect? So how do they talk to each other? And that's when you have to build an API layer. APIs are, contracts between these services. I don't know if you've developed Java application before. I'm myself a Java developer, so in a Java project, you typically have a Swagger document where developers can just consume that Swagger, and they already have all these inputs and outputs ready for them. And that's how I know how I can consume a service, just by having that contract and that API document. So these were more the technical aspects of of how we changed, but making a big change in Amazon was that's just one side of the things. The other side is that you have to make a cultural change as well, and that's when Amazon came up with the 2 pizza teams. Just that name 2 pizzas is just made up for a team which is small enough that it can be fed by 2 pizzas, and it keeps the team small. And the important thing about this is that when a team is small, it actually owns the service. Where in the past you've had teams that were SMEs, DBAs, a team of DBAs that are experts with databases, or web developers, backend developers. Now the team is actually responsible for a business feature, for a service, and becomes an SME with that service, but it's self-ran, and it means that that team can push changes to production and invent on behalf of the customers. So that kind of ties in how we do things in AWS. In AWS, we have again these small teams that are deeply connected into the customer needs. In fact, 90% of what we build in AWS is direct feedback from customers, where the rest of the 10% are things that we try to reinvent on the customer's behalf. So the only way to get to that kind of level of trust with customers is to be able to push these changes without having to wait for other dependencies and other teams. So the 4 principles, the 2 pizza teams with the autonomy, that's kind of what Pat paved the way forward for Amazon to break that monolith and to run a distributed system. Now, what about the monolith development lifecycle, or the development lifecycle as a whole, actually? So in a monolith application, what you used to have is a large team of developers that are all feeding into one box of services. What that means is that, regardless if I'm a developer that has one feature in my business, or if I'm doing other things with other features completely in a completely different area. For instance, if I go in and I change a database to just add a field, that might break something else for another feature that some other developer is running in the organization. And so necessarily what that meant is that you need that one delivery pipeline. And that delivery pipeline where you build your application, which is a very lengthy build usually. Back in the days, you have to run a Q&A, but you have to run extensive testing all the time. There are a lot of meetings that talk about the release, functions like a release management, where you really have to see that everything's in place before you actually deploy changes. That really holds back organizations, because when you think about this, you can't really deploy changes in high speed. From what I've seen in my past project, at least, in a monolith application, we were able to deploy every 4 months, maybe 2 months in just a good case scenario, but we couldn't get that speed of pushing changes into production on a regular basis. Now that experience changed when you have the refactor for speed and agility system, because you have your developers in 2 pizza teams. They all work on one service. They all have their dedicated service that they work on, and probably, as you guessed it, there is one delivery pipeline for each service. So if that, let's take that top line is let's say Amazon ECS, our container service, then Amazon ECS is able to build and deploy changes and push them into production, and that doesn't have to do anything with any other team at AWS, and they're not connected to any other pipeline. It kind of makes it agile, and it gives us speed and the ability to deploy changes quickly. So fast forward to today. This is the picture of the different microservices that are interconnected in AWS. The 4 principles that I talked about, the 2 pizza teams, and the delivery pipeline. This is how AWS operates today, and still till this day. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I just shared an abbreviated version of the story. There obviously we can dive into each specific aspect of things that I was talking about. So in order to learn more, we've built the Amazon Builders Library. The Amazon Builders Library contains more in-depth information about architecture, software delivery, and operation guidelines. It was written by Amazon senior technical engineers, and the cool thing about this is that you have real-world practices and kind of stories from the past where you can see how things were done in Amazon. Challenges with distributed system, how Amazon approaches high availability, implementing observability, and so on. Can you guys still hear me? Okay. So the last resource that I want to leave you with is the AWS Modernization Workshops portal. We've built a hub that contains self-paced workshops that are touching the topics of modernization. So things like serverless, containers, shifting left, infrastructure as code, CI/CD, where you can go and run a self-based workshop on and kind of see and learn more, getting your hands on. So now I'm going to move things over to Angel from CircleCI. Hey, Angel.
Hi, Yaniv, and thank you for that cool briefing. Let me go ahead and yeah, awesome. All right, so hello everyone. My name is Angel Rivera, developer advocate for CircleCI. And today I want to talk about CircleCI, a quick introduction to the company, what we do. Then I want to jump into basically a user story, one of our customers, which is Adam from Netguru, and listen to some of his stories about CircleCI, how they implement it, and some of the optimizations that they're doing with CircleCI and their development processes, as well as some of the benefits in using the product and platform. So first, I want to talk about CircleCI as a company. Basically, CircleCI is a CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery deployment platform that basically enables developers to build, test, and deploy their code using automation. And the key or the core or the critical element of CircleCI and the benefit is it lets developers focus in on what they're supposed to be doing, which is writing awesome code and getting that out to the public as quickly as possible. And the way that we generally do that is by enabling the users to have access to a really stable and robust platform. The company was founded in 2011. Yeah, we definitely busted 300 employees and in a very short time. So we're doing really well. And we're also opening offices in different countries. We also basically have a remote team that's spread across the world actually, and it's working really well. So one of the other key takeaways here I want you to know is that we build tons of people's codes, right? Like we build lots of lines of code every day. And as you can see here, we're doing over 1 million builds per day of other people's code on the platform, which is pretty impressive. And the reason I say that is, people are actually leveraging CircleCI to get their work done quicker, faster, and more reliably, and in a consistent manner as well. And as you can see, we have some of these customers here, big name customers. So they're definitely trusting us with their code, and I think we're doing a hell of a job with it, with providing services for them to enable their developers. So I just wanted to quickly share this visual of where CircleCI kind of sits in the tool chain. If we start off to the left, right, it helps with the continuous integration, continuous delivery process because it helps we enable developers to manage their code in the place where they're most used to, right? So the CircleCI believes in meeting the developers where they are instead of being opinionated and having them, do things the CircleCI way. Obviously, right, any platform has its own little intricacies, right, and ways to do things, but we try to keep that as close to the developers' way of doing business, right, and keep it as flexible as possible so that we are not as opinionated as other platforms are. So if you dig deep into the creation process, obviously, right, the code lives in a source control or version control system, and CircleCI integrates with that, and it's constantly monitoring for any changes. So any git commits pushed upstream to a shared repository or any repository or branch, we detect that change. Then we go ahead and kick off that pipeline for developers, which they've defined themselves, right? And as you can see, we sit in the middle of the other side of the process, which is literally when you're going into like a deploy mode, right? So you're going to ship that process code to a release it to production or even to another maybe target environment. We're definitely in the middle, performing all of the automated functions, right, that our developers and customers define. So with that, I want to jump into introducing Adam Novak from Netguru, so we can listen to his story and how Netguru uses CircleCI and how they leverage it to optimize their software development practices. So, okay, let me find you, Adam. All right, Adam is a presenter.
Hey, Adam, I think you're on mute.
No, am I?
Yeah, you were, buddy.
Sorry about that.
You got it now.
Awesome. Thank you. So once again, thank you for the introduction, Angel. My name is Adam Novak, and I work as a development process practice lead in Netguru. My daily job is to keep the delivery pipeline in Netguru alive, maintain it, and improve it along the way. And CI, which is CircleCI, is a vital part of it, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. So just a quick info, Netguru is a consultancy, product design, software development company. We build digital products for our clients, and that includes web, mobile development, project management, machine learning, design, and so on. Just so you know, we mostly use Ruby, Python, JavaScript, and for the cloud side of things, we focus mostly on AWS. Okay, so let me tell you a brief story of Netguru and CircleCI. As you saw on Angel's slides, CircleCI was founded in 2011. We started cooperating with CircleCI in 2012, so we were early adopters. And our requirements, Netguru's requirements, change along the way, and they evolved together with what CircleCI had to offer, and that was great. So initially for us, we work a lot with Heroku. As you know, Heroku is this commit and push and everything is done kind of solution, and it was the same with CircleCI. So everything was we were able to do most of the stuff from the UI. We've just clicked and yay, our Ruby, Python, whatever kind of project was ready to be processed by in terms of the pipeline. That was the thing, and it was very important for us, but because we've worked a lot with startups, so we had to develop a lot of MVPs, proof of concept and stuff like that, and it was very convenient for us. Next, we had much more projects. There were some additional changes required by our flow. I think here, I think there, and we were able to build generic processes thanks to CircleCI's config, which was introduced on a later stage. And we were able to share best practices among projects. Then, you know, not like you probably know that not a single project is the same, and every project is different, and there is always something different. And thanks to the CircleCI config, we're able to add more and more customizations to our flow and make sure that all the project requirements are met. Now, a few years ago, like, well, that's kind of a long story, but Docker became a thing, and the Docker helped us to address most of the things in development production. We were able to use the same images in each environment. And thankfully, CircleCI introduced this feature where you are not required to use their images. You can use community images, Docker images, and basically you can upload your own images and use them for your needs. And that was awesome. That was very important for us, and it helped us again to pimp our CI game a lot. And the thing that made me the most excited regarding CircleCI platform in the last few years was introducing orbs. Angel is going to tell you a little bit more about the details of orbs, but let me just say that orbs allow you to wrap big chunks of logic and functions into a nice piece of code. Instead of writing a couple of hundred lines, you can just use 5 of them, and you'll be ready to go. And why was it great? Because previously we had to maintain scripts. We had to keep the versioning correct. We need to make sure that we use the same version of the code wherever needed. And of course, we've done a lot of copy and pasting, and it was a mess. And right now with orbs, this is much more civilized, and I like it a lot. It helped us to speed up the development. All right, so let me just go through our typical flow in a single repo project. So we start with checking out code from GitHub. Then we build our dependencies, plugins, libraries, all of that. Usually in the same time we run all kind of linters, all kind of static analysis tools. We check whether code style is fine, do we have any security vulnerabilities or something like that. Of course, we use CI for running tests. That's obvious. What might not be that obvious is we also use a lot of metadata around pipelines. For instance, let's say we have some acceptance tests. We take some screenshots along the way within the CI pipeline. We store them, and if there is a bug or something like this, we are able to access them in an easy way. That's very convenient. We also store the test coverage and see whether it improves or not, and take some actions based on that. We use CI to build Docker images with our code. We publish them to registry. Again, AWS is very helpful with that. There are some orbs, there are some automatizations which help us with that. Then we usually deploy to some kinds of pre-production environments, staging, beta, whatever it is. If everything is good, after additional checks, we are ready to deploy to production. And as the last step, we send some post-deployment notifications, and we again gather more metadata. I will tell a bit about metadata in a bit. This is how it looks like in a typical project. As you can see, most of the things I've mentioned are there. There is checking out the code. There are some security checks. There is bundling requirements, linting, testing, and deployment at the end. This deploy staging thing, that the last one is like it looks like a simple one. However, inside there is plenty of logic involving ECR, ECS, and other stuff like that. Good. But so this was the typical scenario, very widely used within our company. Let me tell you a few words about non so common use cases. First one is scheduling jobs. So there are two options. Sometimes the no-code solution like Zapier, this is not enough for our needs. And on the other hand, writing code, writing library, writing big script application is too much. Or for instance, someone is not familiar with AWS Lambda and is not able to come up with a beautiful solution right away. Thanks to CircleCI, we can write our scripts or some kind of logic within the repo, add a few lines of code and schedule something. And for instance, we use that to schedule some weekly emails, so to do a very quick parsing of some data. We get the data, we parse the data, and we send an email. That's it. And we use CircleCI. It's a very simple pipeline, and we've done it, a couple of years ago, and still works. That was quick, but works for some proof of concepts. Another example is building documentation sites. if you are going to notice the documentation on CircleCI page, this is built in the same way, and we in Netguru use it also using CircleCI pipeline. So all we do is build the content from the repo. There are some markdown files. We bundle them together. We save all of the artifacts, HTML files and JavaScript and then images to S3. And from S3, we just serve it via CloudFront distribution. Simple as that, works like a charm. I love the beauty of this quick pipeline. Another thing, so we try to gather a lot of data within the company, and CI pipeline is no different. For instance, we check the number and the length of deploys. We gather this data and we use this data to make some adjustments, maybe help some teams which, like Yaniv said, deploy every 2 months or so. We will be notified and say, hey, maybe deploy more frequently. That would be helpful. So we definitely use this data. We also track the pipeline costs, and we'll see if we are going if it's going to be more expensive or not, and why is that? Maybe there are some optimizations to be made, and so on. We use a lot of metadata to, for instance, we can synchronize a given build with a Jira ticket or something like that, and it helps us to track everything. CI also allows us to shift left with security, thanks to the flexibility of CircleCI and the pipelines, config files, and so on. We're able to come up with a script in the form of CircleCI orb, and all we say to teams, hey, just put this orb as part of your CI pipeline, and you'll be kind of okay with security. And it works this way, that there are some automatic checks, and if there is something bad going on with the code, a specific security team is going to be notified, and they will come up to the rescue and help the team to mitigate the issue or whatever is necessary. Yeah, these were 4 examples of the not so common use cases, and right now I'm handing it back to Angel. 1 second. Angel.
All right, I think I have control. Thank you, Adam, for sharing that. It's pretty interesting to see how you at Netguru do business, especially with CircleCI and AWS. And that's where this kind of slide comes into play. I guess, Adam, you're in the middle between the two. You're one of the people in the middle. But what I want to stress with this slide is basically, CircleCI and AWS, we share a ton of customers, right? Both of our developers using both our platforms have different kind of needs. I'm very familiar with a lot of our customers' needs and how they do business using CircleCI, and in some cases, how they use cloud providers like Amazon and their services. So I can personally speak to what Adam just showed you, and I'm here to tell you that everyone does, every company, every organization, every team, every developer does things differently, right? And that's where we come into play as far as CircleCI and the flexibility that we give developers with the platform. Adam alluded to orbs, which is kind of what I want to talk about today in a sense. And let me share a little bit here about what orbs are. You can read this slide, but at the end of the day, orbs are basically a way for CircleCI to enable even more flexibility for the developer. And what I mean by that is, in most CI/CD platforms, you're kind of stuck doing business or conducting your directives in automation for your automation and your CI processes to a very specific and opinionated way of doing business, right? So depending on what platform you're using, there are kind of the rules or the way that you would interact with that service or that CI platform. With orbs, we noticed a few things with our customers, and these are like common problems that were shared across the board. One of the main ones was that we got complaints for was the inability to easily implement a third-party vendor service into a pipeline. Meaning, you know, like Adam shared, they use a lot of AWS services, and one of the use cases for us to build this orbs feature was for us to enable an easy way to implement third-party vendors. So what orbs are basically are parameterized YAML. If you know anything about YAML, YAML is a data structure. It's a declarative data structure, and it's commonly used in the cloud native era now as kind of a default way to syntax and way to kind of program your services. So what we did was we enabled a way for the CircleCI platform to support parameterized components within a YAML syntax. And this is what I mean by that. So this is a nice example of a hello world orb, and this is what behind the scenes what a developer like Adam's team probably did, created an orb. By the way, orbs are open source, so anybody who's using CircleCI, any customers or users of CircleCI, you can develop your own orbs to do specific things for your particular needs, and then you can post them publicly in the registry. We all maintain that there. But at the end of the day, we have an orb here, and there's 3 elements to an orb. And these are definitely the elements within a normal CircleCI configuration file. If you look to the right, you see we have the command section or a command component to an orb. So this is just a list of things that you can execute, and you can parameterize those things, as you can see in that first example, where the step says -run echo hello. You can make that a parameterized value so that when you implement an orb, which I'll show you in a moment, you can change those values accordingly without having to rewrite a lot of code, which is another problem that we were solving with orbs. Our customers were creating robust pipelines, but there was a lot of repeat cut and paste because of the nature of YAML, right? But when we introduced orbs, now you have that capability to parameterize a lot of those values and encapsulate that functionality. So if we jump into the executor component, you can actually define executors, which are basically the runtime for your orb. So this could be a Docker container. You could actually use a virtual machine, full-blown virtual machine if you need a little bit more horsepower, Mac OS, and we also offer Windows-based runtimes as well. So now we kind of cover all the major operating systems and runtimes that people use. So again, we're trying to meet the developers where they are in those features. So the final component to an orb is the jobs, which is basically a listing, right, or a grouping or an aggregation of a bunch of commands that actually, perform a specific task. So again, these are just the 3 core elements to an orb. And again, this is the backend this is how you would develop an orb. So we do host these orbs in a registry, and this is just a screenshot of all the AWS orbs that our company, CircleCI, has built. If you look to the right, you can see there's a certified kind of tag there. And those certified tags just mean that CircleCI, our team at CircleCI, our engineers, build and maintain these orbs. And again, this goes back to, we all share customers, right? CircleCI customers use AWS, and AWS customers use CircleCI. So these are orbs that kind of encapsulate and again, enable the developers to implement any kind of functionality regarding AWS. The top one there is AWS CLI, right? Everybody uses that if you're going to interact with the AWS services. So again, we're meeting our developers, where they are, instead of having them kind of rework their pipelines and make them a little bit more complicated than they need to be. So with that, I wanted to jump into really quick kind of teardown. I want to show you what CircleCI configuration YAML file looks like and how you would implement some of these orbs. So the first thing is, right, you have to declare a list of orbs. These are coming off of the registry, and as you can see, there's a namespace, right? So you would give it a key, you just call it AWS EKS or whatever it is that you want to name it on the right side, and then on the left side, on the right side of the colon, you just define the orb that you want, and then the @ symbol with a version number. So we maintain these as well, like I mentioned. So if we want to, change those version numbers, you can do that. And it's kind of a way to kind of pin the versions on those orbs. So when you're ready to upgrade to a new orb, you can do so. And then, right, we just have a listing of the AWS ECR. So that helps you with building and deploying Docker images to the Elastic Container Registry. And then, of course, we have our own Kubernetes orb, which gives you kubectl command line, right, inside of your jobs. And for the security purposes, we also have another partner called Sneak that has an orb that enables us to scan our applications and Docker images for any vulnerabilities. So here's a component, and by the way, this slide here is just how you would implement them. So this is like an include statement, right? So you're just telling your CI/CD pipeline config that you're going to include these orbs in your jobs. So this is I kind of collapsed some of the jobs. It's just a little bit verbose, a bit much, but I wanted to focus in on two main things there. If you look at line 45, we're just defining a new job, right? And then that's called build and scan image. And if you jump down to line 51, we're actually implementing the AWS ECR orb, right? And then the / build - image is just a function. So these are kind of a function that you would just call, and then the lists or the values and keys below are the parameters that you must supply information to. Now, if you look at the account URLs, just right, every ECR has its own URL endpoint. You just give it that. You just tell it the Docker file, right, and then there you can, with the path, just give it, where it is that Docker file exists, and then there's other parameters that you could give it. If you look down to the next step, which is deploying the application, right? This is a new job. You can see the executor is being defined there, and it's using an EKS orb, which is basically going to probably spin up behind the scenes, spin up a Docker container with all the tools required, and Python, right, to actually start deploying this application to an EKS cluster or environment. And if you look further down to line 107, you can see where we're actually using Kubernetes, the Kubernetes orb, to create and deploy this application, right? And we're feeding it a YAML file, which, right, Kubernetes is heavily reliant on. And then, you can see further down in line 111 as well, you're creating and updating your resources. So that basically covers orbs. I know we breezed through it real quick, but I'm super excited to get to any questions that you all have and see if we can get some good conversations going. So thank you.
Yeah. So we've gotten some good questions in so far, but there's plenty of time, guys. If you have a question, please go ahead and use your GoToWebinar control panel and submit it. Here is first question here. How is this different from our existing AWS CI/CD tools, or is it integrated with AWS services like Amplify or other new services?
Yeah, I guess I can jump in on that one. So CircleCI is only focused on continuous integration, continuous delivery. It's its own separate animal. And the way we operate is, we want to help developers understand their software development practices and help optimize that. Companies like Amazon, right, they have tons of services, which is great. But at the end of the day, we're focusing in more on just CI/CD, not all the other features and services that they offer. And so it is different. But we do integrate, obviously, right? With what I just showed you, orbs, we definitely have the same customer, so we do integrate with tons of different vendors, Amazon being a great partner and all. Yeah, so it is different. We definitely just focus in on CI/CD and helping, you know, facilitate teams building their software faster, more reliably, consistently, and yeah, offering the speed and experience that we've gained over the years. I hope that answered it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Is an orb script a customized one?
Yeah, so you can build, right? You can build your own customized scripts. We have really good documentation on how to do this. Adam, I wasn't sure from your presentation. Do you have custom scripts that you've built for, or custom orbs that you've built?
Absolutely. So you can use like your own Docker images and use them within that script, and you can parameterize the config depending on your needs. Like in our case, like the one I've mentioned with security. Like we have a thing, a Docker image or script. Within that Docker image, we include that within orb, and all we have to parameterize is, I don't know, Jira key or something like that, and bang, it's good to go. So yeah, you are like able to develop in any language.
Excellent. All right, great. Next question, do orbs support comments?
Yes. Yes,
all right.
They do, because YAML does. So.
Okay, all right. Well, then that actually may answer this next question here, which is what language are orbs in? Meaning, what is the declarative way of writing an orb?
Yeah, so we do have, you know, kind of the ins and outs of writing an orb and developing orbs on our website. But for the most part, we leverage YAML as the CircleCI platform's kind of, I'm going to say, syntax, right? And then, yeah. So well, it's YAML, but you can, within that YAML, when you're executing commands, this is really important to understand. When you're executing commands and run blocks, you can then call, if you want to call a Python script to do everything, you could do that, right? And you know, and then you could even leverage some parameterized values within the orb that the orb gives you, right, to feed those scripts, if you catch my meaning. So the overall structure is YAML, or syntax is YAML, but it's like I don't want to call it hacked, but it's modified to accept parameters, if that makes sense. So the point is, within that YAML, you can call whatever framework stacks, you know, languages, binaries that you want to use, as long as they can be executed in that runtime.
Excellent. Okay. All right, let's shift the focus just a little bit here. Got a question about AWS training. I'm interested in something that was mentioned at the start about paid AWS training courses.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Sure, I'll take that. So what I mentioned in the beginning, these are not paid courses, these are free. You can just go either to the Amazon Builder Library. It's more of a white paper kind of exercise. And then after that, I mentioned the AWS workshop.io portal. I can send over that link to the public chat. This is just a free resource for, you know, as free as it can be when you bring your own AWS account and you have to still provision some services. But it kind of runs you through tutorials and helps you implement and build on top of AWS. Now, additionally to that, you know, we have our training and certification courses. And we have a few routes that you can take. You can take the solution architect route, or you can become an SME and specialize in concepts on AWS. So you can try and gain machine learning certifications, or if you want to be an expert specifically on how to do security, if you're from banking or financial services sectors. So there's a lot of ways to kind of get familiarized with different concepts on AWS, and a lot of great resources to study and to learn on in a self-paced manner.
Excellent. All right. So we are about 10 minutes to the top of the hour. I think we have time for maybe 3 or 4 more questions here. Here's another one for you, probably Angel. Does CircleCI support templates to use in different projects in other ways other than orb? If yes, then how can they be included?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you're talking about maybe like a script that you might run, right? And you have a standardized way of running things, and you implement, let's say, just using an example, Python script to do a bunch of things. Again, if that's the context, then you can just call that script, right? And then within your pipelines whenever you need to. The other way you could create a template is without even having to create an orb. You can use these parameterized components that I showed you in the command executor job slide. You can actually build that into your pipeline as well. So you can create templates, right, within the pipeline without even having to create an orb. So what I'm trying to say is you can leverage all of the parameterization for your YAML within the same configuration file. But again, right, then it's specific to that specific file and that project. Whereas if you create an orb around that parameterized functionality, then you can send it to the registry and then just include it in your configuration file, which helps with the syntax volume, right? So I'm sure Adam, he's been around for a while. Back in the day, it was thousands and thousands of lines of code that was like repetitive, because within YAML, you only have like an anchor. They call it what they call an anchor. And that anchor enables you to kind of create somewhat of a reusability piece, but it still doesn't give you that flexibility without parameterization. And, Adam could probably talk to that a little more.
Absolutely. So I'm not saying it was a nightmare, but probably it was. And the amount of lines of code we were able to delete when the orbs came in, like, I don't know, 70% in some cases, really. So yeah.
I've had customers that have told me they've eliminated thousands of unnecessary, repeated lines of syntax in their pipelines. The example I showed you literally deploys, builds, tests, scans, application and Docker images before they even, and then creates a Kubernetes cluster, right? All these things on EKS. And it's only 128 lines of YAML because they're leveraging orbs, right? We're encapsulating that functionality. And again, I would definitely steer you towards using orbs, because if you need to make a change, it's done in one place and then it propagates over, right, to everything else without having to have your developers even think about it. So if you're, managing multiple or centralizing and managing functionality in one place, orbs is the way to go for sure.
All right, great. So we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. But guys, if you have a question, please go ahead and use your GoToWebinar control panel. If we don't get to your question during the Q&A, please know that these guys will be getting a copy of all the questions that come in. So I'm sure they'll be more than happy to follow up with you offline. Okay, so let's see, what do we got left here? I think I had a security story. Yeah, here. Okay, so what are the security tools that can be integrated to CircleCI? Are there any?
Pretty much anything that you could access, right? So if you have a CLI tool like Sneak has, or if you have to call out to an API, White Source is another vendor, Sonar type. So if you go through our registry, you'll be able to see. We also have partner orbs as well. So those are actually built by vendors, right? Like our partners, like Sneak, White Source, and others, and they're maintained by them as well. So we're not the experts in those tools; they are. So again, they're building these orbs so that their customers who use CircleCI can leverage the platform way easier, right? But at the end of the day, as long as you can Yeah, pretty much there is no limitation in that sense, as far as I know. As long as you can either download a binary into the runtime or call out to a CLI or to an API, there really is no limitation. You know, obviously you need the credentialing, right? So you need keys or whatever kind of authorization secrets or mechanisms, but there is no limitation, to be honest.
All right, great. So we're about 5 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm going to go ahead and close out the question and answer period now. I think we got to all the questions, but if we didn't, as I said before, these guys are going to get a copy of all of them, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to follow up with you after the webinar to get your answer.
Excuse me,
did I
Charlene.
miss one, Angel? Did you see one?
I see one. I see one that I wanted to hit.
Oh.
It's a really easy one. So the
Go
question
right
is, yeah, are orbs similar to plugins and other tools like Jenkins? So the answer is yes and no. So again, if you notice how orbs are structured, yes, we provide functionality that not mimics, but is similar to like the intent of a plugin. But with CircleCI, we manage all the infrastructure for you, so there are no plugins, right? This is just extended capability. Orbs are extended capabilities for folks who need that flexibility. So again, it's a yes or no, yes and no, but they're not a direct comparison.
All right. Well, thanks for catching that one. That one flew right past me. So thank you for your eagle eye there, Angel. Okay, now I'm going to close out the question and answer period. Like I said before, yeah, if you have a question, last minute question, go ahead and please add it to the queue, and these guys will, you know, just get in touch with you after the webinar. Also want to remind the audience that today's event has been recorded. So if you missed any or all of it, or if you just want to watch it again, you'll have the opportunity to do so. Following today's webinar, we are going to be sending out an email that contains a link to access the webinar on demand. And the webinar is also going to be living on the devops.com website. So you can always go find it there. Just go to devops.com/webinars, look in the on-demand section, and it should be right there waiting for you. Okay, I did mention at the top of the hour that we would be doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do that. Today's 4 lucky winners are Juan A. Congratulations, Juan. Second winner today is Mark H. Congratulations, Mark. The next winner today, Natalia C. Couldn't see if that was Natalie or Natalia, so congratulations, Natalia. And our final winner today is Vanessa W. Congratulations, Vanessa. All 4 of you, congratulations, and please check your inbox for information on receiving your Amazon gift cards. If you don't see something in your inbox, please check your spam filter. Gentlemen, Yaniv, Adam, Angel, thank you so much for a great presentation. Lots of great stuff, lots of interest in the technology, judging from the number and types of questions that we got from the audience. Certainly fascinating information. So thank you so much for your time, your expertise. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Thank you.
I also want to thank the audience. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to walk all over you there. All right, well, I do want to thank the audience also for joining me today. This is Charlene O'Hanlon, and I'm signing off. Have a great day, everybody, and please stay safe.
Bye-bye.